Ooh, presentation?
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, this is a big one. I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm going for Wayne's record.
Oh boy.
Um, this what else can I say? This is the best slot car race I've ever been to. I haven't been to a lot of slot car races, high-end slot car races. It's been home racing, but I've been to a lot of high-end RC races, and this breaks the bank. My friend Ian Douglas said he's been to a lot of races. He says it's the best slot car race he's ever been to. So, first of all, hats off to Marco and Maurizio for making this happen. It was just unbelievable. These are not the cars that, well, three of cars I took. The one on the right is my race car. The one in the middle is obviously the poster car, which I dropped when I took it in to take this picture. So I've got to glue the wing back on. And the car on the left is the car that Bob Hooley and I won the Christmas Enduro last year with. So these are all going in my museum, and the two signed by Maurizio. This was a competitive race, and obviously this was a big race. It's a nationals, but it wasn't about the race. It was about the people. I mean, what he did to put this on, and all the little things. There was actually a sign that said electric alley as opposed to gasoline alley. We had to put outside because there's limited space indoors, but it was all there, porta potty set up, everything. Like I said, it's about the people. There's people on here that and there's people on here from Austin that I know through my YouTube channel, but I finally got to meet them. I was standing next to Rick Jocham, who is a relatively famous, definitely famous HO racer. The guy from Austin comes up to me, I know you. Go, you're Jim Rose. And he goes, and Rick just looks at me and goes, they know you? The details. I mean, there's nothing like this. You want to get picked up at the airport, you can get picked up at the airport. The schedule's there. And up to date, this is after the two heats were run. So an up to date race results of the 9 heats as they were run. So you know where you stood in relation to the rest of the field. So every little detail, the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. This is the one car that I saw that I got to take a picture of that. This is one of the Austin guys. And so he's running a Toyota. You can see it's got NSR tires on it. We'll get to that in a minute.
Was that a hydro dip?
Yes, it was. I asked him about it. It was a hydro dip. Just the thing looks amazing. It's looks great. Got the Electric Dreams logo on it. The LA Slot Car Museum, which we'll come to in a second. The Nationals right below the Toyota. So if there was the one thing they didn't have was a concourse, and he probably would have won it. So I would have given it to him. The displays. There were blue and yellow cars there.
Mauricio brought a Sunoco.
Mauricio brought the Sunoco. You can see the Ferrari in the background and the Chaparral. So the new three new cars that aren't out yet. So they were on display. Marco told me, and I have no reason to doubt him, in these two display cases, there is one of every car that Slot.it has ever built, including, you see in the upper right, some of these special edition cars, the Marlboro liveries, but the Warsteiner liveries, different colors that were probably never imported to the United States. So, just besides all the regular stuff, every car that Slot.it has ever made. We got to meet Maurizio. Great guy, unbelievably friendly, outgoing. Mauricio's on the left. My friend Rick Jocham, who happens to be a pretty good racer, is on the right. We got to sit down in like a roundtable meeting with Maurizio on Friday night. It was part of the event, and he talked for a few minutes, and then we threw it open to questions. He explained all the licensing issues. That was one of the questions. So he talked for quite a bit on how licensing works. He talked on his relationship with NSR and how it started. And it was great because, they're competitors, but they have a very strong mutual respect for each other. So it's just interesting to hear him talk about that. And in the getting things done portion of that, my friend Wald asked him, we're running these modular gears and they have 3 shims in them, and we're running them with 4, and we really think you need 4 to make this work properly. He goes, done. The next batch will have 4 shims. The next question was, well, can you sell the shims separately? So, you can buy 1 gear and a couple extra shims. Because, yeah, we can do that. So he was just incredibly open and receptive to ideas. And he bounced some ideas off us. What do you think about this car? What do you think about that car? And my comment to him was, I think a car that would sell extremely well and has never been done is the Datsun 510. So they're looking into that. And so just to sit down with somebody that owns the company and be able to bounce ideas back and forth and talk to him, and just like I said, just an incredibly nice person to have a conversation with. And obviously it makes great cars.
Yeah, Mauricio is super cool. If anybody out there ever has the opportunity to go somewhere Mauricio goes, freaking go, and just say hi and shake your hand, and then he'll say, hey, how you doing? What do you race? He's like just another dude. It's awesome.
And he's not a bad racer. I worked on his car for a little bit on Thursday, and then Rick Jacob worked on his car a little bit. We got it running a little bit better based on this track, and he ran a Porsche, which was not the car of choice, but I think he finished 16th or 17th, which is not bad for basically not racing at all that week, really hanging out with people. So
15th.
Awesome.
Yeah, he said he got 15th.
15th, okay, yeah. Then another thing, Marco arranged us to be able to go to the Slot Car Museum. And the LA Slot Car Museum is right up, those of us that are on this chat, right in our wheelhouse, because it's this era that most of us are in. This is the lower level, or on the top right is the lower level. The mezzanine is on the upper level. That's the Interscope car and the Ronnie Peterson F1 car. So this is where you walk in. Philippe de L'Espinay was our host. And obviously I guess you would call him the curator, if that's the official title or not, but of this museum. And he showed us all the things that were in there. On the lower level is a place called the Vault, kind of like the Peterson Museum. They've got the Vault down below. It's got all kinds of stuff, just cataloged and everything. All of it just brand new parts from the 60s. And then you go up into the actual museum. And I didn't get a picture of it. I do have a video that will go up later. As you walk into the museum, you go up about 5 steps and you're greeted by this big, probably 6 foot by 10 foot video board, and it's playing the scene with Batman and Robin playing with slot cars. And then so now you get up in the museum, they got some, here's some of the cars that are quite a bit even before my time. And this gives you kind of an overall look of what the museum. This is one wall. There's about 4 or 5 walls like this. So it's not a huge area. I would guess it's around 40 or 50 by 50, something like that. But it's just old stuff. And it's all on display like you think of slot cars, we kind of think of dingy places, slot car parlors or whatever. This is first class, like a first class museum. Some of the stuff on display is vintage race cars. The boxes on the right are all original boxes from racers from the 60s. So like, if the stories that could come out of those boxes could talk, it's just amazing. Everything's there. This is just Cox. You got the Cucarachas, you've got the Ford 121 Galaxy, the Dan Gurney car, the prototype, and then the original cars and so forth. So it's all just like this. And as you go through the museum, it's just like some of this stuff. You tell me, yeah, the Stinger or whatever. I'd forgotten about that car, but it brought back the memory. I think is that a Buzzco? I think the Little Red Wagon. And
yeah,
so,
it was the same company that brought up the Batmobile. And,
yeah,
it was BZ,
yeah. So all this stuff is there, and way more than we have time to look at. Original race cars, from the 60s and so forth. Most of the stuff is 60s era. So the race cars.
It's like going back and going through a model car magazine from 1966, but for real.
Yeah. And these are the original cars. I saw this, so I took this for Dwan.
I was going to say, Dewan's got a couple of those, right?
There's a complete Revell area. I mean, you've got Revell, you've got Monogram, you got K&B, you've got AMT, and I just didn't want to put all these in this presentation because it would just take too long. So that was the museum, and again, that was part of the weekend, and that's what made this what I consider the greatest slot car race ever. Back to the sideshow, which was the racing. This was my race car, the one that I chose. In pre-testing, my friend Rick Jocham and Walt Baines, they told me, you got to have a Jaguar. If you don't have a Jaguar, stay home, basically. And so I built a couple of Jaguars, and this was my race car. And I'm not going to go into a huge, great, lengthy detail about this, but this is the car. What sets this apart from an ordinary Group C car that we've been racing, and part of it's the rule set, obviously. They don't allow ballast. You've got 2 tungsten weights there. But the biggest thing that we changed from what we'd been running in the past, because it was open wheels and tires, are the gears. We ran the modular gears on the right, which when you break them in with semi-chrome for about 20 minutes, they are whisper quiet. Car makes zero noise going around the track. But the biggest thing was the tires. We ran the NSR 13 millimeter by 13 millimeter F1 wheel and the NSR Ultra Grip 13 millimeter wide tires. And you can see the tire on the left is the one that I used in the Enduro winning car from December. And the one thing about that is that those 13 millimeter wide wheels will not fit on any other car but the Jaguar. And that was one of the reasons why it's so dominant. I've heard a lot of people say, well, we got to get rid of it. It's the Mosler of Group C or whatever. Part of it was the rule set. You can run wider tires on the Group C, but you can't run the 13 millimeter on both sides like you can on the Jaguar. So that was part of it. I think the best Jaguar was, I think Maurizio was the best non-Jaguar at 15th.
That's what he said.
What diameter did you turn those down to? They look rather small.
Well, you look on the bottom there, we're running 25 thousandths ride height roughly. And those are 17.5 millimeters. It's very chassis dependent because these Jaguar chassis are not flat out of the package. And so you've got to work with, and everyone's a little bit different. So, but we were all right in the neighborhood of 17.5 millimeters in the rear, which gave us about a 20 to 25 thousandths ride height because the track's perfectly smooth. We can run the car as low as you want to run it. So that was the basic setup. Buy a Jaguar, buy a set of pre-mounted if you want them, NSR tires, put the weights in it, put a wood guide in it, and go racing. And it would run on that track, just build it out of the box like that. It would run 6.4 without any problem. The fast cars were running 6.1s and 6.0s.
And what teeth is on your spur there? I'm not familiar with it.
That's a 23.
23?
There is a 22 that I found at Pendle Slot, but it didn't mesh anywhere near as good as this. So there was really no gain for it. So we pretty much everybody, it was almost a spec car. I think that in the A main, every car was pretty much this identical setup. The only difference between my car,
you had to keep the 9-tooth pinion that was provided on your
yes,
on
that
your
was
motor,
required. Yeah, the pinion was spec, it came on the motor, and you couldn't change it. The only difference between my car and Rick's winning car was the guide. He used Slot Invasion, I used NSR, but the cars were basically identical. So it was almost a spec class. You just put the car together like this, and it ran great. The Nissans and some of the other cars ran really good and could approach the times of the Jaguar, but you really had to push them hard. With the Jaguar being wider and the bigger tire patch and everything else, it was like effortless to drive it around the track at speed. So that was the reason the Jaguars dominated. And quite frankly, the guys in the semi probably would have been in the semi if the Jaguar didn't exist. So the faster drivers gravitated to the Jaguar. And so that it's a, you know, the Jaguar is good. On a home track, I don't think it's going to be that great. I mean, it'll be good, but because it's so big and heavy, I think a Porsche is still going to be very competitive on a club track that I normally race on. There you go. There's the right around 20,000, 25,000 ride height. So it's slam. It's right on the ground.
Can you tell me what that is in millimeters, Jim?
I don't know.
Oh, anyone?
I know 25 in mil. Is it 1 millimeter 40 thousandths?
It's 0.635 millimeters.
Wow.
0.025 inches is 0.635 millimeters. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, at the end of the day, our NorCal guys, there was a couple others. I loaned Mario Alvarado, one of my local racers, or one of the local racers I race with. He was struggling a little bit with a Nissan, so he ran my backup car and ended up finishing, I think, 16th. I think he was right behind Maurizio, 16th. So again, it was just so easy to drive. Myself, I had as good a race as I could run. I got second. Ian Douglas, also from Northern California, and Herman James from Northern California were right behind me. Ian passed Herman on the last corner of the last lap to finish third. So it's a very competitive race. Going into the last segment, I was 1 lap behind Rick, and Herman was 1 lap behind me. And if I would have tried to catch Rick, because I was on a slightly faster lane, but they're really close, but he was on the easy lane. And if I would have tried to catch him and make up a lap in 5 minutes, I probably couldn't have done it. And I probably would have given up second. So I just kind of sat back and and decided I'm going to run a clean heat on the gutter lane and take my second and go home.
Well done, Jim. Well done.
One of the real pleasant things is the people at Electric Dreams. She knows her stuff. I got there, I go, I got a chassis waiting for me. Yeah, check out 2 or 3 of them, see if you want see if whichever one's the flattest. So she knows her stuff and she gets you the stuff that you need. So very, very helpful. Works with Marco. And then after all is said and done, Electric Dreams was closed yesterday, and she put this poster up, and Marco said, well, okay. So yeah, that's the first poster she's made. All the other posters, you know, Marco is designed or whatever. So this was her poster. We're getting out of here Monday. Get rid of all these 60 people. We love them, but 5 days is enough. So that was the event. And like I said, the event was just spectacular.
Most likely it was 5 days of men, is what she.
Oh yeah,
She's like, I'm done.
Maurizio brought his wife along too, didn't he?
he did. Yes.
Yeah, I thought I saw her there.
Yeah, she was
Yeah,
there.
I think I saw it. Yeah.
And so I just can't say enough about Maurizio. Didn't do a lot of the work on the race. That was Marco, but he obviously lended his support. And so coming over here is a big deal. So between Maurizio and Marco, the thanks just, you can't stop saying thank you because it was just an incredible event. The only person I don't want to thank is Rick Jocham because he beat me.